What is up, my dashing dudes? I am the Hans TV, and today we find out what happens whenever you try to get the father of your child to pay for something they didn't need. It's r/ProRevenge. Our first post for the day comes from Scott3496. My co-parent threatened me with child protection report. The cast is going to be the general people, Karen and the kid. This story takes place a few years after our breakup and settlement of our house. We had 2 years of 50-50 custody of our daughter. 1 week on, 1 week off. Handover is Monday after school, which is good as I avoid seeing Karen most weeks. One of my weeks, kid comes down with a stomach flu on Thursday. Both ends like a volcano. This carried through to Saturday. Sunday, she was tired but no symptoms. I kept her home on Monday to ensure she is 48 hours symptom free before sending her back to school. I dropped my kid off at Karen's, informing her that she has a stomach flu. She should be fine for school tomorrow. Without asking any additional questions, she utters a sound I've only heard camels make before closing the door. Rude, but anyway. 3 days go by and I get a call from Karen. Karen, kid is lactose intolerant. You need to get special milk. Me, where is this coming from? She had ice cream last night and threw up 45 minutes later. I spoke to my hair and beauty teacher who said she must be lactose intolerant. Now it's time to mention my girlfriend at the time, my wife now, is a qualified and practicing dietitian and is listening to this call as I put it on speaker. No, Karen, I really don't think so. Lactose intolerance mainly affects the bowels. Kid had gastro last week. The body will often reject dietary foods for 1 to 2 weeks post-gastro. If symptoms continue after 3 weeks, then it's something to look into. She went on to explain the body science behind this, but I'll spare you the details. My wife said that she cannot make formal diagnosis as that requires specific costly tests, but she can refer and treat such conditions. She said it's her professional opinion as these symptoms are sudden and presented around the same time as gastro. It's gastro-related dairy avoidance. You're not a doctor. My kid is lactose intolerant, and if you don't comply with the treatment, I'll report you to child protection. I thought for a second and said, okay, I'll make you a deal. You get the formal diagnosis and I'll fund the full cost of the test. If it comes back negative, I'm not paying a cent. Hearing this, my wife smiled. So I pay for the test, and when I get the diagnosis, you will pay me back the full amount? Yep, including flights and accommodation. Karen agreed to this deal. I texted her this for written evidence. She replied with, okay. A few weeks go by and my kid tells me, Mummy is taking me to Melbourne for tests. I get to go on a plane. Yay! It's a good time to note, that week kid was having milk with her breakfast and surprise, surprise, no problems. Another 4 weeks go by and Karen calls me. So, the test results came back negative. The specialist said it was probably gastro-related issues. Nothing that we could have seen coming, but at least now we know. Anyway, the flight cost me $600, accommodation was $150, tests were $750, and you owe half, which is $900. Firstly, my wife who treats conditions like this said it was gastro-related. You refused to listen, stating we are not doctors, but apparently your hair and beauty teacher is a qualified doctor, eh? Secondly, $600, $150, and $750 equals $1,500, half of which is $750, not $900, which brings me to my main point. We agreed that if the test was negative, I wasn't going to pay a cent, which you agreed to. I hung up and sent her a screenshot of our agreement, including the okay response. Karen in this situation, oh no, my baby is sick. Who should I trust in this situation? The person who's qualified and does this regularly to treat this? Or my beauty and hair teacher? This next post comes from everywhere to LA. My neighbor wanted to be fined, got over $40,000 in expensive, and fines himself. This happened many years ago, and thankfully I don't live there anymore. But it still warmed my heart with memories of how stupid a person can be. So, a neighbor who badly wanted to buy the new home we bought to expand his property decided he wanted to make us move out by doing nasty stuff. Since the home was pretty run down, we started remodeling it, all by the rules, but somehow a neighbor decided we were doing everything wrong and he reported us to the authorities. We had several inspectors on site. All of them concluded we're doing it all by the books, and we were off the hook. But since they had come, I asked them to check the neighbor's property as well and filed a claim similar to my neighbor's. In his case, it was obvious he had some stuff added to his house, and knowing his personality, it was 100% true that he'd never go the legal way. So, long story short, after the inspections, the dude had to demolish around 40% of stuff around and inside his home. To repipe all that self-made gas pipes, he put it around the place, and it also got clear he was violating parking rules using an alley for permanent parking. The cons of this is we had to live in a home next to a construction site for the next 6 months because of how much stuff the dude had to remake. The pros: how much joy the thought of him spending around $40,000 because of his own stupidity brought. So I'd like to file a claim that my neighbor is doing illegal and doesn't get his permits. Well, actually, sure, it shows here that you're the one who did stuff illegal, and now you're gonna have to pay for it. Our final post for the day comes from Horatius Cockles. I got fired and went after the boss's money, his hotel, and his marriage. Back when I was still in university, I used to work for a hotel to make ends meet. When I started, the hotel very urgently needed new personnel, so I cut a deal with the old owner about getting to choose and pick shifts, so I could visit my courses and exams. Speaking some extra foreign languages, I also got a little bonus each month on top. The old owner was a great guy. He owned multiple hotels, so I rarely saw him. But when he was in the house, he always made a point to have drinks with the staff, chat with us, and if we were free, he even invited those of us to the front desk to fancy restaurants who were not on shift. Fast forward, I had worked in the hotel industry for a few years now and was nearing the completion of my studies, so it wouldn't have been an eternity until I had to quit anyway, as I was, of course, more interested to work in my field of study. As a part of my deal with the old owner, I mostly chose to work night shifts, allowing me to visit my courses at university during the day. To make up for my privileges, I had picked up the habit of doing some extra work in the dead of night other shifts would normally have to do, when I, on contrast, could have sat around and stared at the walls. People were grateful for the help in the beginning, and we became a rather tight-knit group, but over time, people rotated in and out. When the old owner retired and his dickhole of a son took over the business as the new owner, I already feared the worst. The new owner didn't like me very much. I never found out the exact reason for that one. I was, at that point, nearly the only sole veteran left from when I started. Among the tasks I had taken on was doing light clerical tasks to each the manager's job each morning. For that, I generally had to use the manager's network account. One night, while doing my lists, I logged into the manager's account and emailed to do my job. Then I saw an email with my name in the subject line. I know it's not nice to snoop, but of course I read it. Turns out the new owner wanted to get rid of me. I still had my old employee contract with the bonuses for foreign language abilities, and was allowed by my contract to pick and choose shifts. I can only assume these privileges are what made the new owner hate me. No idea if he had other reasons, because to be honest, these seem very weak to me. But he couldn't fire me without cause. On top of that, I would be owed severance if fired, and generally, there were not enough bodies in the shift rotation without me. Though the new owner didn't seem to understand that point as the emails told me. I looked for more emails concerning me and found them. There was an email chain between some of the employees, the manager, and the new owner. I was of course not CC'd as I was the hated topic. The employees didn't like me hogging the night shifts, because those paid better and for every night you worked you got paid the night bonus. The manager was the only one rather neutral on the matter and just curbed their enthusiasm to get rid of me, as they needed me to be fully staffed. The new owner and my colleagues actively conspired to make a hostile work environment so I'd quit of my own volition. I was furious. I thought about a variety of reactions, from egging their cars to burning down the hotel, but I settled on a much less crazy method of revenge. I called my uncle at 2 a.m. asking for advice. My uncle is a lawyer, so for sake of proof, I forwarded myself all of the emails. I made photos, printed them out, and made copies, and filmed the whole deal just to be sure. My uncle told me to sit tight and see if things got worse, or if it was just bluster, and so I gave it a few days, and things did take a turn. Snide remarks about my looks, clothing, and so on were only the tip of the iceberg. Some of the colleagues were just as professional as before, but the conspirators always left extra work for me or pawned off crap duties they normally had to do on me. I always kept a spare shirt and suit at work, just to have a change, which suddenly disappeared. One guy even started to threaten me with violence, but I kept clenching my butt cheeks. I would not give them the satisfaction of saving on the severance or giving in. I am a big boy after all. I did, however, stop doing any extra work. I was not obligated to do so, which in the end was the reason they used to fire me. they still had to pay my severance. The next day, my uncle, with bundled proof of the email and all the documented harassment by my colleagues, served the hotel my lawsuit. It started with wrongful termination and ended with harassment. Reportedly, the manager went white as a sheet when he realized where the emails must have come from. The new owner had been on vacation and had to cancel his expensive vacation in France to deal with this. Their counsel advised them to settle, so I accepted my severance and a hefty bonus on top. Enough money to last me until the end of university without work. But that was not all my revenge. I had gone after the new owner's money, but in the next step, I went after the hotel. I had used all the spare time during the night shifts alone to document every last violation of city, county, district, state, and federal law I could find. That went from minor things like harmless mold under the kitchen sink to substantial violations like modifications to the building. The building was under a limited form of historical protection by federal law, on the ground of being built and inhabited by somewhat important historical figures a few hundred years back. So every renovation or change in floor plans needs to be signed off on by a committee, which can take ages. There is also a grant paid to the new owner by the government for keeping the building intact as is. So with my uncle's help, I sent documentation of every violation I could find to the corresponding agency. In 1 month, everything from health, building code, fire safety, to the finance and work police called over the hotel. In the end, it was the building and fire inspectors that shut the place down. The new owner had done substantial renovations to the top floor luxury apartments, which he used when he was in town. So, the new owner had to pay back the grant, pay fines for unauthorized alterations to the building, endangering his guests because something wasn't built right according to the fire code, and had to close down shop until the building was fixed. I also tipped off a friend who had studied journalism and worked at a local paper. The paper ran an article on all the violations accumulated, which tanked the business once it had reopened, as the newspaper article had led to horrible reviews. In the end, to afford all the fines, repayments, and building costs, the new owner sold the hotel. As the cherry on top, all the buttholes who had tried to harass me out lost their job. Granted, the people who didn't do anything to me lost their jobs too, but didn't do anything to stand up for me either, so I don't feel too much remorse. And the revenge cherry on top was that the new owner, whenever he was in town, used to bring home escorts, which in my country is not illegal, but he was married. It took some doing to get that information to the new owner's wife, but one of my former colleagues, who had quit before this had all happened, had her email, so I let her know what the new owner was up to when he was out of town. I don't know what exactly happened, but they divorced in the end. Make of that what you will. Ooh, OP, that is some juicy beverages right there. Thank you for sharing this story, man. But with that being said, that is going to do it for today's episode of r/ProRevenge. I hope you liked the stories, and if you did, I'll link them down in the description as always. And if you liked the video, subscribe, share, drop a like, and a comment down below what you'd like to see me read next. Also, leave me any constructive criticism you can think of. I'm always looking to improve and make better my channel. But with that being said, I will see you in the next video.